All right, good morning, Girl Scouts. So as I'm waiting for a couple of you guys to pop on, I'm Megan, the STEM specialist at Girl Scouts of Central Maryland, and today we are going to be doing our owl pellet dissection. So if you haven't had a chance yet after this video is over, our ranger box turtle, he put out a very cool video introducing you to all of the owls that we have at the Caitlin Dunbar Nature Center and introducing you to our two owls, Loki and Storm. So I encourage you to all go on and take a peek at that video. He is very knowledgeable about the owls and it has a lot of really neat stuff. But what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be showing you a dissection of an owl pellet. For those of you that don't know what an owl pellet is, owls cannot digest the bones that they eat when they hunt their prey. They mainly eat small birds, rats, rodents, kind of things like that. But once they eat them, they cannot ingest the bones. And what they do is in their digestive system, they kind of collect all of those things that they can't digest, compact them all together into a tight packed pellet is what we call them. And we call them owl pellets. And then what they do is they then regurgitate them and kind of throw them up or cough them up. And so that's what we're going to be dissecting today. So I'm going to go ahead and get you guys set up so you can see what I'm working with right here. I'm going to go ahead and pop down. This right here is my owl pellet. It is covered in foil. I'm going to be using gloves. When owls regurgitate the owl pellets, they're not something that you should pick up and play with out in the wild. These that I have were sterilized ahead of time, so that they are safe to use. But even though they've been sterilized, I'm still going to be using gloves. The person that asked about the video that I just mentioned before with box turtle, I believe it was posted about an hour ago, so you can go ahead and take a look at this once we're done. So I have my owl pellet right here. It's wrapped in foil. I'll open it up in just a quick moment. You can purchase owl pellets online. The ones that you can purchase online have gone through a sterilization process, so they are safe to dissect. Yet I'm still using something to cover my table. I'm using a black piece of paper so that you all will be able to see the things that I find in this owl pellet. And I'm going to use just household items that we can use to dissect our owl pellets. I'm actually going to just be using a paper clip, and I'm going to kind of fold it out so it's something that I can poke with. You can also be using toothpicks or anything kind of like that, but owl pellets, you kind of just get in there with your hands and with some small tools like this to be able to dissect them. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up and show you what it looks like. If you do purchase them online, they are going to probably come. I don't think I've ever purchased them where they haven't been covered in foil. And, you know, you're going to open it up and you're going to even see that this one that I have, hopefully it's focusing all right, has some bones that we can see already kind of just by looking at it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our tools and we're just going to slowly start to try and break it apart. You can use your hands a little bit. This one's a little bit hard. Just to kind of break it apart and see what we can find in here. You're going to find fur. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of break it open so we can see. So you're going to see that there is going to be fur. You might find feathers. Hopefully we're focused. Fur and feathers. This one seems to have a lot of fur in here, and you're going to be able to find the bones that owl, of the prey that owl ate. So I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to kind of very gently start to kind of break it apart. The bones that we can find in these are very delicate. Rodents and birds have very fragile bones, so sometimes they will be fully intact. Sometimes they might break, and that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and use my paper clips to try and get off any of the chunks. So this right here, I'm gonna go ahead and place the ones that I found just kind of on the paper right here so we can see them. That looks like it might be some sort of a leg bone. It had a piece of like maybe the top of a hip. We're gonna go in here and hopefully we'll be able to find maybe a skull or something like that. So we might be able to then identify what animal this owl ate. So we're gonna just kind of keep going as gently as we can. You can use that to kind of pick it apart, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you right here. I'll point with my pink one right here. It looks like this might be a little bit of a skull. So we're gonna keep kind of working right at that piece to see what we can find. This is a really fun thing for troop leaders to do with your troops. It's just a really fun hands-on science experiment to get in there and see. I see that we have just linked into the comments right there our video with Box Turtle, and he is very knowledgeable with owls, and he can even with girls in Central Maryland, and you can contact Box Turtle and he is more than willing to come and bring some of his friends out. This video is for everybody. This is not linked to a badge. This is just something really fun and cool that we wanted to share with you guys. That's unique to Central Maryland. We have all of our owls, so we're going to go through on Fridays and show you some of the fun animals that we have with our nature center and some other things about them. So it looks like right here I was able to pull out another piece. Go ahead and put it on my finger. Apologize if it's not focusing quite well. I will go ahead, once I'm completely finished with this, I'll take some pictures and upload them to show you exactly what I've pulled out in case it's not focusing well, so you can refer back to them. So that right there that I pulled out, there are some tiny little teeth on that, so I'm thinking that's probably part of a bottom jaw. It's probably not the top of the skull, but it's probably that bottom jawbone of some sort of a rodent, because birds don't have tiny little teeth like that. And I'm still working right here very gently to try and get this piece right here out. This is what looks like a skull right here. So I'm just gonna keep going. There is a lot of fur in here. So you'll be able to see fur, sometimes feathers. If the owl pellet that you're dissecting did indeed ingest a bird, typically we're going to find more rodents than birds. All right. So I found another piece right here. This looks like there are actually two pieces that were right next to each other. Go ahead and put them right here. They look like they were vertebrae, so the spine of some sort of rodent. And again, this owl pellet right here, he must have been hungry, because this is jam-packed with a lot of really neat bones in here. So this one actually is definitely a hip bone. We can actually see the joint of that like back leg where it would kind of hook into the hip. So I'm trying to get it to focus a little bit better. But you can see that kind of ball socket, just like our hips have. If you've ever looked at a skeleton of a human, we have on our hip bones that kind of ball and socket that sit into our pelvic bones. So we can even see right in there that kind of ball socket. And again, I'll take pictures of these and put them in the comments once I'm finished so that you all can see exactly what I'm looking like in case it is a little fuzzy on the screen. We're just gonna kind of keep going through. There's a lot of really cool things. Where's my skull? I'm gonna go back to this piece that I'm working with. I'm just gonna start to lay down some of the bones that I'm finding right up here. Ooh. And kind of see what we have. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I see somebody's watching from Troop 1448 in Gambrels. Let me know if we have any Girl Scouts watching from elsewhere. Let me know what troop you're in. Let me know if you have any questions about owls as we go through. I'll try my best to answer, and if not, I'm going to refer you to Box Turtle because he knows all that you possibly could about owls. Let me know if you've ever in the comments have met box turtle and our owls before. They're a lot of fun to meet. I've met Loki and Storm. They are beautiful creatures. All right. We have somebody from Bel Air. Ooh, we have somebody from South Carolina. Ooh, we got a couple people from South Carolina. That's awesome. All right. I'm still working, trying to get this piece of the skull out in one piece. We can see that the skull that I'm working with, let me know if it's focusing for you guys. We can see, I'm gonna bring it right up to the camera. It's a little fuzzy, but we can kind of see that it has two little teeth. Let's see if we can get him right in focus. Apologize, it's kind of blurry, but I'll be sure to take pictures. We can see that it has two little orange teeth, which makes me think it's kind of more on the rodent side, a small rat or a mouse. Although this doesn't directly relate to any badges, there are a couple badges that have to do with animals. I know there's the junior habitats. You can definitely maybe, you know, with your troop dissect an owl pellet and learn a little bit about owls to kind of make that animal habitat badge your own. Ooh, so somebody's met box turtle before. They earned their night owl badge with him. And as we go on through the weeks, we'll have more animals, and box turtles going to be showcasing more things that we have. So the question asked, is the owl eating all of these things? So this right here came from an owl. What the owl does is the owl will catch its prey. It'll eat birds, small rodents, and it eats them whole. So it'll go down, and Box Turtle's video, I already watched it. He tells you a lot about their talons and about how they catch their prey. And once they catch their prey, they eat them whole. They don't, you know, go ahead and prepare it or anything. They just eat it as it is. And once they eat that, their body and their intestines, they digest what parts that they need for their nutrients. And then after that, they cannot digest things like fur and bones. And inside of their intestines, they kind of are able to collect the pieces that they cannot digest. And they then kind of clump it all together, and it'll look like this big clump. And then they will then cough it up because they can't digest it. It's kind of like a cat with a hairball. Some people do call owl pellets owl poop. It is kind of like that because it is taking things that they're not digesting, but they're, instead of pooping it out, they are coughing it up. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead. Let me go ahead and put that one to the side. I don't want to break the skull too much of this one that I'm trying to get out. But I'll maybe go back to it. But this owl must have been hungry because there are a lot of little bones in here. And as you can see, all of these clumps that are coming out, they are fur from whatever rodent that they ate. And once I'm done dissecting this, I also have an owl craft that we're going to be making. I've made mine with a pine cone, but we'll be able to get into that, and I'll go ahead and let you know what materials we need once we get a little bit closer to that if you wanted to make it with me. Alright, so it looks like here is another hip bone. Right here we can see. Right. There are a lot of really neat things in this owl pellet right here. Ooh. Some more. Go ahead and slide that where we're going. Let me know if you have any other questions, and I'll let you know if I know the answer to them. But again, these are safe to use if you find an owl pellet in the wild. There are ways that you can go apart sanitizing them. I did ask Box Turtle once, and he said it stinks. to go ahead and get our owl pellets to be in the state where they're sanitized enough to be able to use them safely. But it is possible. I have never personally done it. Box Turtle said he has not done it. He just disposes of the owl pellets that his owls produce. But they go through a sanitization process, and they also dry them out a little bit to be able to have them so that they're safe to then dissect with kids or really anybody, because this is a lot of fun no matter how old you are. I think I have pulled out enough of a skull right here, so I'm going to go ahead and get with the paper clips are really good to try and get any fur out of any small holes. But as you're going through this, you can see I am just using my hands. I am being very gentle with this, just to try and not break the skulls because they are very fragile. I'm just trying to... So do I know what animal it is? I definitely know that it is some type of rodent because of the amount of fur. So I found a skull right here that I was able to pull out. And this skull right here, it has the front two teeth that are kind of orangish red that are very prominent in rodents. I'm going to guess that it is probably a rat or a mouse. I would have to do a little bit further research. Sometimes owls can also eat moles and smaller birds. But we wouldn't find any owl bones inside of an owl pellet because this is only from the animals that the owl eats. So I'm just going to keep going through. There's a lot of bones in here. And again, as I said, I'll make sure I take pictures and I'll get some close-up shots of the ones that I have already pulled out. So I've had a couple more people that have just kind of popped on and they're asking about what an owl pellet is. So I'll go over that again. Owls, when they are hunting and they eat their prey, they eat the animals that they hunt whole. They don't, you know, go ahead and pull out the bones ahead of time. So they cannot digest things like bones and fur or feathers or anything of that sort. So once they eat them, in their intestines, as they're digesting their food, the fur and bones and feathers are then kind of processed out to a different part of their digestive system, where it then kind of packs them together into a tight ball or pellet. Once that pellet is large enough that they can't eat any more food, they will then go ahead and then cough up or regurgitate those pellets. And they typically, an owl will, depending on how often they eat, but in one hunting time as they're eating, they will probably cough up a pellet every 6 hours or so, just depending on how much they eat. Right, so I found one full skull so far that I popped out. There's another skull that I was having some troubles getting all of this stuff out of it without breaking it. So there's at least two animals so far in this pellet that I found. Typically in an owl pellet you'll find at least, you know, one or two, sometimes more, depending on the size of the owl. I'm not sure what type of owl these pellets came from, but I'm going to assume that because it has more bones and fur in it, that it's probably coming from a larger owl. If you went ahead and watched the video already with Box Turtle, we have Loki, who is a very large bird. He's a Eurasian owl, I believe, and Loki is very large, so these probably came from a larger owl. The size of the owl pellets and how much you can find within the owl pellet will just depend on the size of the owl. If you watched the video already, or once you go ahead and watch it, Storm, who is a barn owl, will have smaller owl pellets than Loki will, just because she is a smaller bird than Loki. It's a lot of fur in this one. So rodents also, they also eat moles and shrews, which are just other types of small animals that birds can, owls will prey on. I found within this quite a few vertebrae pieces, which is those bones that keep your spine together. So this could be a little gross for my, but it is really neat, and you can learn a lot about owls through their owl pellets and what they've eaten. But let's see. So as I'm going through, let's see, a lot of really tiny bones. Some of the bones that I'm finding are already broken, and that'll just depend on what might have happened in the wild. If maybe the owl pellet was stomped on. I found another jaw piece. This looks like it's a piece of the bottom jaw of probably another rodent. Rodents are the most commonly eaten things for owls, just because they're small and they can find them very easily at night, because owls hunt and prey at night. Little pieces in there. So I found a third skull in here. So let me see what I can do to get this apart. This one that I found in here, it looks like the bottom jaw might still be kind of attached in the same place. Your jawbone and your skull aren't directly attached with bones, so a lot of times when we're dissecting owl pellets, we will find them separately. But this one, I'm gonna try and pull it apart as gently as possible to show you. Try and pull all the fur apart. But this piece right here. So Box Turtle's video has already been linked into the comments, and it's also just on our Facebook page, and I believe later it will be on our YouTube channel. So we have this piece right here. It's the top of the skull and the bottom piece, which is the jaw. I'm gonna go ahead and put these just over to the side so you can see them as I go through. And again, as I said, I'm gonna go ahead and take some pictures of these and put them in the comments so that you can see in a little bit more detail some of these pieces that we've been finding. All right. So these two definitely go together. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up with our owl pellet in just a quick moment. As I'm finishing up right here, what we're going to be doing next is we are going to be making an owl swap, or just a little craft if you don't have something to pin it on with something. The materials that you'll need for that, if you want to go ahead and get them ready, I'm using a hot glue gun to use all mine together. Glue mine together. You can also use regular glue. I have some pieces of colored felt, a pine cone. If you don't have a pine cone, you can definitely use other craft items. Get creative with it. You can use a pom-pom or something else that might give the owl its body shape. I'm going to be using the pine cone for the body of the owl, and I also have some googly eyes, some scissors, and a marker to draw out what I'm drawing before I go ahead and make my craft. So let me go ahead and finish up with this piece. I'm gonna go wash my hands real quick before I go. I'm gonna slide all of this material out of the way, and then we will get going with our craft. If you are using a hot glue gun, I'll suggest that you go ahead and plug your hot glue gun in now. If you are younger, make sure you have a parent that's here to help you with your gluing. But let me go ahead. All right, so I'll keep going through this and let you know. Somebody asked, how often does an owl leave an owl pellet? It depends on the size of the owl, but they'll typically digest an owl pellet about every 6 hours or so while they're hunting. It'll depend on how much they're eating and the size of the rodents and the animals that they're eating, but they will regurgitate that owl pellet once it's then blocked their digestive system, that they cannot digest anything else. So I still have a lot more of this owl pellet to go. I will go ahead and put up all these pictures that I have for you. I'll take some pictures of what I'm working with, and I'll go through even more and show you in detail and what we found in this owl pellet. So I'm going to be right back. Again, I'm using gloves while I'm doing this. I'm going to go ahead, pull my gloves off, and wash my hands, and we're going to come back in just a couple seconds and get our owl pellet or our owl craft going. So give me just a quick moment and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm just gonna slide all of this out of the way so that we can then see what we're gonna be doing for the rest of our project. I am also, before I do anything else, I am going to wipe off the spot that I was working with. I did have my table covered. If you don't have the stuff to make the S.W.A.P, this video will be uploaded so that you can then go ahead and make it later. You can also get creative with it. If you don't have, it's a lot of, if you do not have like felt or something like that, you can use construction paper. If you don't have a pine cone, you can use something like a pom-pom or anything else that's kind of round. Get creative with it with the supplies that you have. So, all right, so what I'm going to do is we are going to be making a cute little owl craft. Again, so this is what we're going to be making. I made this one already, but we're going to go through this together. So what we're going to do right here, so we're going to start with, I have my materials. I have a pine cone. If you couldn't go out and find a pine cone, I actually went through some holiday decorations and found some tiny pine cones that we had with our holiday decorations. But you can also try and find one outside. I went on about a 2-mile hike and could not find a pine cone anywhere. I also have my hot glue gun and something that I'm sitting my hot glue gun on so I don't burn my table. Some scissors. I have a couple different colors of felt. You can use whatever colors that you like. I wanted to keep my owl a little bit more natural looking, but you could definitely go ahead and make some funky colored owls if you like. So I have googly eyes, some orange for our beak, and 2 different colors to make our face and our wings. And I also just have a marker to use so that I can draw out what we're going to be making. Go ahead, put him to the side. So what I started with making my owl craft is I started by making the spot that the eyes are sitting on, and I used actually 2 different pieces. So I drew out on my lighter colored brown felt kind of an oval kind of shape. The size that you'll do will just depend on the size. If you're doing something with a pine cone, you might need it to be a little bit bigger. If you're using a pom-pom or something smaller, you might want to adjust it and make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and, just because I don't cut things out very well without lines, I'm going to go ahead and draw just an oval shape on my felt so I know what I need to be cutting. All right, and I want to make sure that that oval shape is big enough that I can put my googly eyes on. And as we can see, just kind of playing with it, that's the right shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut them out. All right. And again, you can do this with whatever colors that you like. If you want to make yours kind of a funky colored owl, you can definitely do something with like really wild colors. You can do oranges and pinks and blues, whatever color you like. So what I've done is I've cut out just an oval shape right there. For those of you that are taking notes, this video will be saved and uploaded so that you can then keep working on them later. So what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to then make the rest of the owl. So the owl that I'm making has these kind of ears that are sticking up. I modeled this owl a little bit after Loki, so you can go ahead and watch Box Turtle's video with Loki. Loki has horns on him, so he's a Eurasian horned owl, I believe, and so he has kind of ears to kind of look like they stick up, whereas other owls do not always have those. And you'll meet Storm, who's a barn owl, whose head is completely kind of rounded and does not have those horns on the top. But I'm going to do one that has little horns on the top. So to do that, I am going to, I'm going to pop you back over here. On this sheet, I'm going to use this tan piece because I want it to be a little bit bigger than my tan piece and also have two little ears sticking out on the side. So I'm going to go ahead and draw an oval around that that's just a little bit bigger. And make sure I include those horned ear looking spots on that. So once I draw that, it doesn't have to be perfect, I'm going to go ahead and cut that piece out. All right. So as I'm doing this, our plan is to, on Fridays, introduce you to some of the animals that we have. I'm not quite sure what next week is, but I know that one week we're going to introduce you to the snakes that we have, and some other really neat things that we have going on at our Caitlin Dunbar Nature Center. So there'll be more to come each Friday that has to do with animals. So as I am cutting this out, all right, so once I have it cut out, so I have that little piece with my horned ear spots, I'm going to go ahead and lastly, for my face part, I'm going to cut out a little beak part. So for the beak, we just need a small kind of diamond shaped piece. So I'm going to use the corner of my orange fabric to cut out a tiny, very tiny little piece that's going to be our beak. So we can go ahead and see that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue our head pieces together. So I'm going to start by putting a little dot of hot glue on our larger piece that we're using that has the horns. Just put a little bit of hot glue on. You could also use regular glue. I'm just doing hot glue so that it dries faster so that we can all do this together at the same time. So I just glued that piece just right on there. All right. And once I do that, my googly eyes have stickers on the back, so I'm going to peel off the back of my googly eyes and stick them on. If your googly eyes aren't like that, you can go ahead and hot glue them on. And if you don't happen to have that, you can use something like construction paper to make eyes, more felt to make eyes. Get creative with it with the supplies that you already have. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stick one on. And whoop, then the other on. All right, so I have my eyes. And last I'm going to do right now is put on the little beak part. Be careful if you're using hot glue. It is a tiny piece, so you don't want to try and burn your fingers. A little bit of glue will do. You don't need a lot. And just very carefully stick that beak on there. So we have the face for our owl. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to make the wings for our owl. So what I did for our wings is I cut out two kind of teardrop shaped pieces of felt out of the same felt that I used for the horned part of my owl. This, you can use whatever colors you'd like, but it's just your preference. But just two kind of teardrop-esque shaped items for our wings. All right. So I have my 2 teardrop shapes. I'm gonna go ahead and cut those off. Alright. So I have 1. And then the other. All right, so now I have all of my pieces needed to now make this pine cone right here into another pine cone owl friend. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna figure out where I want my pine cone face to go. So I'm gonna find a spot that I think will work best. And we're gonna find that, and you're gonna put a little bit of hot glue onto your pine cone and then attach the face of your owl to that pine cone. Or if you're using a pom-pom or something else, you can go ahead and figure out whatever spot you wanted that to go and go ahead and get that glued on. So I'll go ahead and attach that right there. And then once I attach my face, I will then see, you know, where it makes sense for the wings to go, right on the sides. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put 1 wing on this side right here and then another on the other side, and then we will be all finished with our owls. And when I'm gluing this, I'm just putting a little bit of glue just to go on the very top of the wing so that they can still kind of move a little bit. We don't want our wings to be stuck down. We want us to be able to move our wings. All right. And then a little bit on the other side. All right. And there we have it. So we have our owl swaps. If you then have a safety pin, you can go ahead and pin this somewhere if you have somewhere that you collect your swaps, or you just have a fun little owl craft. So I want to say thank you for tuning in on Friday. We have more programming that's going to be coming for the upcoming weeks now that you all are out of school. So keep a lookout for what we have coming up. And if you have anything that you'd maybe like us to see, let us know and we'll see if we can try and do some badges that maybe you guys are looking for. But other than that, have a great weekend and stay safe out there.